If he's in a committee and he's questioning people who are trying to get some appointment to get confirmed for some appointment by somebody, I make sure I tune in. You make sure you go and see all the videos. This is Senator John Kennedy. He, of course, from the great state of Louisiana, Republican. Senator, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Joe, thank you for having me. You're a rock star, man. I love your show.
Well, I appreciate that so much. You know, when I watch you show up in these committees and I see you go through very, very methodically, but with this great, like, neighborly, I don't know, attenuation. These people don't know what to do with you. So how much preparation goes into you sitting in front of or on that committee in front of these people who want to be a judge or want to be a prosecutor, want to be something? Is it a lot of preparation? Do you just gloss over their career? Because you seem to know everything, but you seem to be just doing it casually as you sit there.
Well, I wish I had more time to prepare. Maybe 2 hearings out of 10, I have time to prepare, Joe. But most of the time you're running from hearing to hearing. My staff has done some research on the applicant. If I'm lucky, I've had a chance to read it, but a lot of times I just do it on the fly. The secret is to actually ask questions.
Right.
So many senators just give speeches, and you can't find out what a witness is like unless you let them talk. And so that's what I try to do.
Well, I think you're 1,000% right. You literally are trying to gain information from the questions, and the way that you deliver them is in such a friendly way. Even if you're going to corner them, and you do quite often, they have no real reason to not answer the question. You're not attacking them. You're not being aggressive about it. You know, you'll say, in 1997, did you do that? Was that you? And what did that mean? And I'm like, well, they can't not answer you because you weren't going crazy. And oftentimes, and probably every time, they show up with standard answers to questions they think they're going to get. So is the challenge for you when you sit there to make sure it's not a standard question?
Well, I have my own file of questions that I put together myself. Generally, just questions about the law, questions about legal issues, questions that a good lawyer will have thought about. And then my staff, I tell them before every hearing, check the witnesses' social media. You'll be amazed what people, or maybe you wouldn't, Joe, put on social media and then think that nobody is going to find it. And that's always a source that I can go to, usually, to impeach a witness. But I don't go in trying to be mean.
Right.
In most cases, it's the witness that hangs himself or herself, not me. They just They do though. They have canned answers, and I try to make sure I give them something new and different.
I don't think you've ever been mean, that's for sure. There was a guy recently that you went back and forth with that really, really gruff, sort of this kind of guy, and you handled him perfectly. And I think by the end of it, you said, "You're kind of crazy, aren't you?" And everybody watching was going, "Is he going to call him crazy because he's acting crazy right now?"
Yeah,
all that's off the cuff, right?
He's a professor in a law school. He's often wrong, but never in doubt. And I think I called him a whack job.
That's exactly right.
But only after he demonstrated to everybody watching
he
was a whack job.
Yeah, he proved himself to be a whack job, and you said the obvious. I want to bring up something really stupid, and I want to say this. I don't think she's stupid. This is a rich kid, grew up on the outskirts of St. Louis. She went to private school for $38,000 a year. I could never have done that. I mean, I make a good living. My kids go to public school. And now she's acting as stupidly as she possibly can. I'm talking, of course, about from right here in Texas, Jasmine Crockett. She was on a podcast yesterday or the day before, and the podcast host was somebody I'd never seen before, and he said, correct me if I'm wrong, the Republicans have the Senate, the House, and the presidency. How is it that the Democrats shut down the government? Now, Jasmine Crockett, who I don't think is stupid, but is very good at acting stupidly, literally said, you ain't got it wrong. Y'all ain't got it wrong. And then she speaks in this language that she doesn't really speak. And they both go on about how you and the Republicans somehow shut down the government. Now, she knows there's a filibuster. She knows you need 60 to break the filibuster. She knows this thing passed the House. So is it just an act of being, pretending like you're stupid, thinking that the audience is also just as dumb as you're acting?
Well, I don't know the Congresswoman, and certainly she has the right to her opinion. But if she would simply put down her juice box and her crayons and just do a little reading about how the Senate operates, in order to take action in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes. Republicans have 53 votes. So we're 7 votes short. Duh. And that's how Senator Schumer could shut down the government. As soon as he provides those 7 votes, we can open up the government, Congresswoman. I don't know the Congresswoman. I want to think the best of her because I don't hate anybody.
Right.
So I won't say she's stupid, but her commitment to acting stupid sometimes is very impressive.
I guess that was my point. I think you answered, but I'm going to ask it again because I'm kind of stupid. These people are acting that way. They can't possibly be that dumb, right? You can't like Ilhan Omar can't really think that Charlie Kirk was this racist, misogynist, anti-everything guy. She can't really think that Frankenstein's monster killed Frankenstein, can she? Or is she just so filled with hate that maybe she does believe it?
Here's what I think is going on. And it's not just the Congresswoman. It's many, not all, but many of my colleagues, usually Democratic colleagues. They think the American people are stupid.
Gotcha.
They think the American people don't get it. Now, it's true that the American people don't have time to sit there and listen to a bunch of politicians honking on like a goose all day because they're too busy earning a living.
Right.
But the American people figure it out. But many of my Democratic colleagues think they're smarter and more virtuous than the American people. They think they'll believe anything. And so they think the American people, since my Democratic colleagues are smarter and more virtuous than them, that they think the American people ought to just send all their money and all their freedom to Washington and let Washington, D.C. make decisions for them. And that's really their attitude. They think the federal government is what makes America great. They're wrong. It's ordinary people doing an extraordinary thing, but they have a very, very elitist, jaundiced, incorrect view of America.
I think that she's kind of the face of the Democrat Party. So is Crockett. So is AOC. I get why Chuck Schumer doesn't want to pass this continuing resolution that doesn't add any spending or subtract any spending. It just continues for 6 weeks so we can get an actual budget. He doesn't want it because AOC is going to kick his ass next year. I get that. He's afraid of her. But why would everybody fall in line behind him? What kind of leverage does he have on these Democrat senators? There are a lot of Democrats in red states. There are Democrats that are center-leaning left a little bit, maybe even leaning right on some stuff. Fetterman has a backbone to do it. Why won't 4 or 5 other Democrats agree?
You know, that's a great question. And I don't know the answer. Senator Schumer, if he told the Democratic senators to join the Taliban, I think they'd say, "Where's the line?" I don't understand it. I know there are more than just a handful of Democratic senators that know this is crazy. This shutdown is just nonsensical. But they follow Chuck. They just do, and Chuck follows Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez because Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is the leader right now, the Democratic Party, because the Hamas wing, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, has taken over the party. Not all Democrats are socialists. Not all Democrats have sympathy for Hamas, but the wing of the party that's in control does. And Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is head of it, and Chuck's scared to death of her. He is really worried about his politics back home. That's just the truth. I mean, and everybody in Washington knows that's what's going on.
Again, they're not stupid, but they're also not very smart. And I'll say so this way, because if you look at any poll, the Democrats are losing almost every issue. Doesn't matter the issue. It's either 75-25 or 80-20, and the Democrats are on the low number side. When it comes to this shutdown, it is clear it is a Schumer shutdown. It is clear that the Senate Democrats are stopping the government from being reopened. Hakeem Jeffries can say whatever he wants about health care. Chuck Schumer can lie all he wants as well. Nobody's falling for it. So if you had a brain cell like you and I do, wouldn't you say to yourself, yeah, I'm a Democrat? Wouldn't you pull Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., and say, I'm a Democrat, but I'm glad there's lower crime in D.C. I want to keep my job as the mayor. That's a smart move. If Chuck Schumer were to say, listen, because I don't like what the Republicans are doing, but because I love my constituency, I love New York, I love the country, let's reopen it. Look, now I'm a winner. Or J.B. Pritzker. Yes, have the National Guard come in and stop all the murder in Chicago, and then I'll take credit for it. I called in Trump. I'm the governor that got that done. Am I wrong about that, Senator? Wouldn't it be a big win for them if they just swallowed their pride for a second and said, let's do the right thing?
Here's your problem, Joe. You're being rational.
That could be the issue.
Look, if Senator Schumer stood up tomorrow and said, this has gone on long enough, we need to open government back up and try to solve the problems that we're arguing over, at least half, and probably 60, maybe 70% of the Democratic Party would say, okay, that's great. Let's try to solve some problems.
Right.
But you've got the socialist wing, the same wing that's about to elect a socialist as mayor of New York. You can call them the socialist wing, the Bolshevik wing, the loon wing, whatever you want to call them. They are in control, or they have convinced many Democratic politicians they're in control, and they are calling the shots. And specifically, it's Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. She is the quarterback for all of this. And, that's if some of my Democratic colleagues would just go to Amazon and buy a spine online and stand up to the loon wing of the party, they would find out that most Democrats are not members of the loon wing.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm naive, but I don't think they are. But they won't do that. They're scared to death of them.
Yeah, but and what you said is absolutely true, obviously. But when you look at what's going on, let's say J.B. Pritzker, specifically the governor of Illinois, again, why not come out and say, well, I hate Trump. I cannot stand that dude. He's orange. I don't like his tie. I don't like how he flies around. Look at his stupid hair. But I would love to solve the crime problem in Chicago. Isn't that a political win? Senator, does he have no fear of losing an election? Wouldn't that be a political win? This guy thinks he's going to be the president.
Here's what good question. Here's what I don't understand. I don't understand why more Democratic mayors and governors haven't done what the mayor of Washington has done.
Muriel Bowser, yeah.
Mayor Bowser. Every major city, most of which are run by Democrats, has a crime problem. That's just a fact. Now, how do you reduce your crime problem? Put more law enforcement on the street.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to a governor or a mayor and says, I will pay for and give you additional law enforcement officials to work with the ones you have and put them on the street and reduce crime, any rational mayor or governor would say, let's do it immediately. Yeah. I'll take a dozen. But because it's President Trump, and because the mayors and the governors are, they just hate President Trump, they're doing the exact opposite. If President Trump came out in favor of breathing to stay alive, Governor Pritzker would hold his breath. I promise you. That's the way they think.
Well, you're not wrong. I'm laughing because it's so extremely stupid that you're probably right. Muriel Bowser, did you see the way that she did it? She literally came out and said, I agree with what Donald Trump is doing, because keep in mind, he cared about lowering crime before he became president. Like, she's saying, I don't agree with the president, but I agree with the guy who's the president now, with how he felt before he was president, so don't get mad at me for liking the president. I mean, she was very, very careful about how she did it, but that's the only right answer, isn't it? Hey, lower crime. I'm going to take credit for that, too. I'm the mayor. I said yes to it. And so I guess, going back to the question I asked a little while ago, Senator, are they not in fear of losing the election? Do they think that they're in no matter what Brandon Johnson in Chicago has said literally not one Chicago Metro police officer will help ICE. And then we have proof when they called 911 for help, they said, we're not sending anybody. Does that guy think he's got a political future?
Well, Mayor Johnson, he's entitled to his opinion, but I've watched him. I've watched what he's done in Chicago. And my opinion of the mayor is that when his IQ gets to 75, he ought to sell. He's just been a huge disappointment. And I don't think he has the ability to be the mayor. I don't. Chicago is one of the greatest cities in the world. It breaks my heart, but he's just running it into the ground, and it starts with crime. But another huge problem is education. Yeah, you got kids graduating from high school in Chicago who can't read their diplomas. It's embarrassing, and it can be addressed. The crime is frankly easier than the education problem. All you got to do to solve the crime problem is put more cops on the street and let
Yeah.
them do their job. That's all you
Well,
got to do.
Well, he was offered that. He was on MSNBC, and Joe Scarborough, who is no fan of Trump, said, would you take 5,000 more police officers on the street? Senator, he wouldn't answer it. He kept on talking about educating people and getting, some sort of help from a social worker. And he said, no, but would you take the 5,000? Well, it's not a police problem, but would you take them? He wouldn't say yes. So back to my original question, does he think he's just going to skip and put his hands over his eyes and put his hands over his ears and squeeze his nose and still get elected? Because at some point, you're going to have to hit critical mass. Like Rudy Giuliani in New York was elected as a Republican. They all held their noses and voted for him because they were sick and tired of living like that. They voted in George Pataki as the governor of New York because they were sick and tired of living like that. Of course, those two guys fixed it, and then they elected a bunch of Democrats after that for some dumb reason. But is Chicago hitting critical mass? How about Portland? Are these cities going to wake up and say we can't keep electing the same people?
We haven't hit critical mass yet in Chicago. Part of that, not all, but part of that is because the people who have the wherewithal economically have left. I can't tell you the number of people who pay a lot in taxes who just left Illinois. They've left Chicago. The mayor is propped up in Chicago by the teachers' unions. They elected him. They're a very powerful force there. And they funded a lot of his campaign. I wish I had a better answer, Joe, but I don't. But sooner or later, I know this. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist who worries, but I'm an optimist. Sooner or later, the good people of Chicago, I don't know when, but they're going to get fed up. And they're going to say, we've had enough. And we don't have to live in fear. We don't have to have schools where violence is common and learning is rare. But they're not there yet.
I hope they're getting there. I think the illegal immigration problem actually has helped to get them a lot closer. One last question, and I'm going to go off the beaten path a second. The FBI, I like Kash Patel. He's a friend of mine. I like Dan Bongino, friend of mine. I think they're doing a good job. I think Pam Bondi's doing a good job. I think she fumbled the Epstein announcement early on, but I think people got past that. Are they doing it quickly enough? And the reason I ask is that I hear every single day on socials, on my radio show, on the podcast, Joe, when am I going to see some people in handcuffs? So, Senator, are we going to see some people in handcuffs? I know that Comey's facing indictment. I get it. But we're ready to see the lawfare, those who brought the lawfare upon the American people, we're ready to see them in handcuffs and face the music.
I understand that. I think they're going, this is what I honestly believe. I think they're going as fast as they can. I think they're trying to do it right. It's been 9 months since they took office, along with the president. I think they want to be deliberate. I don't think they want to make a mistake. They want to be fair. Everybody's entitled to due process. But I do think they'll get it done. And I don't know this for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised. I could be wrong, but I know they're taking a very close look at Mr. John Bolton.
Yeah.
And they're taking a close look at Mr. Jack Smith, who got the phone records of 8 United States senators, which I just can't believe the telephone companies gave them to him. But I understand how difficult it is. You can't just go do something and look for the evidence later. You've got to make sure you're right. And I know it's frustrating, but I just know what all is involved in getting it done.
I said last question, I mean it this time, because we're still sitting in a government shutdown. It's Senator John Kennedy. How does this thing end? Does Chuck Schumer come out and do what you said and say, okay, listen, I hate it, but we're going to open the government for the good of the people, and we're going to go and negotiate now? Because now we're starting to see all the crap they tried to add back in with their alternative CR about, adding queer ideology in Serbia and stuff. I mean, all that stuff's back in there, and the American people didn't know that. Is he going to have to fall on his sword and say, okay, let's end it now? And will it happen soon?
Well, here's what I think Senator Schumer will do. I think he will go to 6 or 8 of his Democratic Senate colleagues and say, look, do me a favor. I need you to vote to come out of the shutdown. I think Senator Schumer will say to them, now, I'm going to have to criticize you, and I'm going to vote no.
Wow.
So because I've got to look tough, but I've got myself in a corner, and I don't know how to get out, and I want you to bail me out. And I think that's how we'll come out of the shutdown.
Is it going to be soon?
I think it will be at least 2 weeks.
Wow.
And if I'm wrong about that analysis, I don't know how we're going to get out of it because I don't see the Republicans backing down. The Democrats are just asking. They've made very unserious offers. This could end up being the longest shutdown in the history of ever. And a lot of Americans don't think that's a bad thing.
A lot of Americans don't think that as well as the president paying the military. We certainly don't think that then because we're finding some money. At the end of the day, I think you're right about Chuck Schumer, though. He's going to have to do that. If he wants a political future and if he wants to take on the leader of the party, the de facto leader AOC in that Senate race, he's going to have to show some leadership. But it's interesting that you said he'll still vote against it and quietly, protest those who are voting for it. But he'll say, we'll just have to get it done.
I was just going to say, Joe,
Please.
I think Senator Schumer's mismanaged it. I think he's misjudged it. I think he really needs to sit down and try harder not to suck because he's got himself in a corner and I don't think he knows how to get out.
Oh, he's doing a good job of sucking then is what you're saying. I can't thank you enough for coming on today, Senator. My show is your show anytime.
You're a total baller. You're a rock star. Thank you, Joe. I love your show.